Hey folks, your OS Reviews. You're watching our video first look and a quick review of the ProBox2 series of Android TV boxes. So these basically run Android version 6.0 and they come in a few different iterations. This is the Pro version, so it has all of the accessories. Some of the other iterations are slightly cheaper, but you will miss some of the components such as a fancier remote, so on and so forth. And you can find this on Amazon in links below for around 60 bucks or so. So it's not too expensive and it's basically a smartphone, but in the form factor of a box that you plug into a display and transform it into a smart display. So you can browse the web, watch videos through Netflix, Hulu, YouTube, so on and so forth, and play back a few games as well. So this is one of the latest generation models. So it has upgraded hardware to support a bit more intensive games as well as apps. So you can see that it does support 4K resolution for video, full HD of course, and also has Kodi built in, which is a native software overlay that makes things a bit easier to navigate that you'll see in a moment once I plug this into a display of what that interface looks like. So there's built-in Wi-Fi, of course, on here, and some other specifications which you can find on here include 2 gigabytes of DDR3 RAM. There's 16 gigs of built-in flash storage, expandable, of course, via a full-size USB port, has a full-size HDMI port as well, in addition to Bluetooth, so you can also connect a wireless keyboard or a mouse for better navigation if you don't want to use the built-in remote. And of course, you can also use your own headset for music. There's IR sensors for the built-in kind of remote, air remote that they have on here. And otherwise, the processor here is a pentacore Mali 450 with the GPU. So it should be very sufficient for playing back videos as well as a few occasional games. So a pretty good overall hardware combination. So inside the box, you have access to the ProBox2 itself. We'll take a closer look at the hardware in the moment. Underneath here, there's access to a few instructions for the remote. There's a user guide that's documented in full color, and there's also a setup guide for how to plug it into your television, how to go through the various menus. So this is what the Kodi interface looks like. It's a bit more simpler than your standard Android interface since you don't have access to full touch, but you can also pull up the regular Android screen if you want to do that. Underneath here, we have the aforementioned accessory components, which correspond to this. So this is called the Remote Plus. This is what the Pro version includes. It's a receiver that you plug in, and then the other side is used for the remote that you see over here. So the remote here is pretty standard. It's made out of plastic. It has standard navigational controls, which allows you to go through the UI, go through home, menu, back, and use it as a mouse, which you would then uses as an air remote. So you wave it in the air and it recognizes your gesture and motion and transforms that to a cursor position on screen. So pretty easy to use. Takes 2 AAA batteries, which are not included. This is an antenna for the Wi-Fi reception to increase the reception. And here is the Nano Receiver is actually corresponding to this, the Remote Plus. This one here is the standard remote that you get regardless of what version of the ProBox2 that you purchase, and uses just traditional infrared, as you can see from the top there. This version is the updated one, which supports a little bit better motion, so the air remote functionality has been improved. It's a bit simpler to use. It also looks a bit sleeker, but you don't have as many of the controls on here. But it also uses AAA batteries, so pretty easy to use as well. This might be a little bit better for gaming purposes if you tilt your remote and maybe you want to play back multiplayer games. That is possible here. Finally, there's access to a full-size HDMI cable, which you use to plug into a monitor, in addition to the proprietary cable for the power. And that's it. Let's set everything off to the side and take a quick look at the design before we launch the software. This is what the ProBox2 looks like. So it's actually very small and sleek. It fits into the palm of your hand, and it's made out of a solid polycarbonate finish. So it does feel fairly decent in terms of the weight distribution and the overall finish of the unit. There's a logo on the very top. There's also a light on the center here that will light up once it's been powered on. And the side here features the antenna. There's also on the back the aforementioned ports, including the full-size USB port, which allows you to plug in any peripherals, thumb drives, hard drives, a mouse, a wired mouse, or a wired keyboard are all going to be options here. There's also the aforementioned power port, full-size HDMI, Ethernet, and also an optical port if you want to get better sound quality and hook it up to a home theater. The back features 4 rubber feet, which prevents the ProBox2 from sliding around on a surface or a desk, which makes it a bit easier if you have a slick surface. So overall, the design here is a lot smaller than I was expecting, and I've already seen quite a few generations of Android TV boxes through the years, and this one has really refined the process by making it very compact and also sleek looking. Almost seems like a Mac product, except it's made out of plastic as opposed to aluminum. The sides here, really quickly, also features a secondary USB 2.0 port in addition to a micro SD card slot for expanding the memory. So next, let's jump into the menu and show you guys how it works once you set it up.
The grid-like UI to access all the various functions. You do have access to the Android Play Store to download more apps, but overall I think this is a pretty nice skin, at least for an Android TV box. It's not going to be as customizable, but again, it's very simple and easy to use. On to the left, we have an app store, which you can tap on to access all your different applications. You have a few games preloaded, which includes Angry Birds as well as Fruit Ninja. However, these games are pretty tough to play, especially with the bundled remote. This is actually not an air remote, so you can't use it to wave around and actually come out with a cursor. Instead, you have to move up, down, left, and right. So I would recommend purchasing another controller or maybe connecting a USB keyboard or a mouse if you do plan on doing more gaming and easier navigation as well as text input. There's also the basics like a calculator, a clock, Gmail, Media Center, there's Kodi, Google Hangouts, and all the regular Google services are connected. In terms of the usability, it's pretty fast and responsive between when I click on something and what happens on screen. There's also voice search, and there will be some sporadic updates back and forth. In terms of other features on here, there is Miracast, which is pretty unique. It allows you to connect your Android phone or tablet using Wi-Fi onto the TV box, and afterwards you can use the monitor as a way to view back whatever content is being displayed on your phone, which is pretty cool. It's basically like wireless HDMI, and you can play back any movies or games that way. It works pretty nicely. There's a little bit of lag, but overall that's the essentials as far as apps that are integrated on here. In terms of browser, you have the choice between the native Android browser, there's Google Chrome, as well as Firefox. So you have 3 different browsers pre-installed. That's kind of interesting. It's pretty speedy and responsive. We have the default browser over here. Again, text input is going to be a challenge if you don't have a keyboard times page fully loaded, and the default setting is actually on desktop, so you don't have the mobile view. It gives you the full view that you would have on a traditional laptop computer running Mac or Windows. As you can see, things load pretty nicely with the graphics and text loading up at a respectable speed. Of course, it's going to vary in terms of the distance with your Wi-Fi router, but afterwards, all the contents and the flash video elements are also loading on the page. So overall, it does a decent job as a web browser. You can click on things to watch a few video clips, and so on and so forth. For navigation, if you want to use the remote, I would recommend setting things onto the traditional way of going left to right, up and down, as opposed to the mouse, because otherwise it becomes pretty cumbersome to move up and down a page. And also I would recommend purchasing a separate mouse that connects onto the USB socket on the side of the device. But overall, it does a decent job again in terms of web browsing. Going back home, checking out some other details on here. Again, for games, we have the 2 preloaded games on board. That works as you would expect. The processor here does a decent job of loading back games as far as frame rates and also the speed. For more graphically intensive games, it might take a few seconds longer, and for multitasking, you definitely will notice some sluggishness if you have more than 4 or 5 applications open in the background. But overall, it's definitely doable and workable as far as playing back your games are concerned. The last feature I wanted to explore really quickly is Kodi. This is an application that's built in, and it creates a slightly modified user interface that allows you to access different web streaming content, such as radio, internet music. There's also going to be some TV channels you can check out. It's a unified online service which works pretty nicely. Of course, you can always opt for installing other third-party applications such as Netflix, and that works just decently. It runs pretty smoothly as well, and you can also load your own content on here via
Alright guys, so hopefully you got a good idea of what the user experience is like from that quick sample of what it's like when plugged into a monitor, and it works very well. It's quite fluid, it's responsive. Of course, a limitation of all of these Android TV boxes is that Android is really meant to be used with a touchscreen, so it's a little bit hard for navigation. However, this process is eased by the built-in air remote functionality you get from the additional remote you can find on the Plus or the Pro version. It makes waving around and selecting things on screen a lot easier, but if you want to make the process even faster, I really do recommend plugging in a mouse or a keyboard just so that input is a lot easier. You don't have to peg out letters one at a time using the controls on screen with the virtual keyboard. So if you have a plug-in keyboard, it works a lot better. It would basically be used as like a mini desktop, maybe similar to a Linux experience, but running Android, of course. So overall, it works very well. As long as you aren't opening up too many apps, you'll be I think, surprised with the capabilities of this to stream content, stream video content. All of the applications that you want can also be downloaded from the Play Store as well. And of course, it makes for a pretty decent web browser as well as a gaming platform as well. I was surprised with the built-in Remote Plus just because it's great that it offers also tilt sensitivity because it is an air remote. So you can play back games you can see oriented on the controller here. So it makes for a pretty nice user experience. And there's also a microphone on the very top of the Remote Plus, which allows you to answer and make voice commands a lot easier, such as Google, what's the weather like, so on and so forth. So it makes for a pretty competitive and fully featured overall Android TV box solution. So this is certainly one of the most advanced Android TV boxes we've seen, comes at a fair price point, I'd say, and makes for a good competitor of other models on the market. You can check out more details about this in our official written review, which is coming out soon, but this has been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. This has been the ProBox2 Android TV box running Android 6.0.